Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, so we all know DNA is the fundamental blueprint of life, right? But there's actually a profound mystery sitting right on top of that code. It's basically a master control system dictating how the entire machine runs. Today, we're unpacking the absolutely fascinating world of epigenetics to understand the true control mechanisms of your biology. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive into this with a massive cellular mystery. Every single cell in your body contains the exact same DNA sequence, the whole shebang. So, how on earth does a brain cell know it's supposed to act like a brain cell and, not a liver cell?
Here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover beyond the DNA blueprint, the genetic control switches, how your lifestyle matters, disease and inheritance, and we'll wrap up with the future of medicine.
All right, Section 1, Beyond the DNA Blueprint.
So what exactly is epigenetics? Well, the Greek prefix epi kind of gives it away. It literally means above or on top of. We're talking about heritable changes in gene expression that happen without altering the underlying DNA sequence itself. Your genetic code, those actual sequence of letters, remains totally identical. Epigenetics is this extra layer of chemical modifications sitting on top of that code, giving it very specific instructions.
Going back to our earlier mystery, a liver cell and a brain cell share the exact same manual, but epigenetic marks act kind of like highlighters and redaction pens. By turning certain genes on and totally silencing others, epigenetics allows these cells to perform highly specialized functions despite sharing the exact same genetic foundation. Pretty wild, right?
Moving on to Section 2, the genetic control switches.
You should really think of epigenetics not just as a simple on-off switch, but honestly more like a complex lighting system in a highly advanced smart home. These chemical modifications act like dimmers. They control exactly how much of a particular gene is expressed, dialing a gene's activity up to full brightness or dimming it way down until it's effectively silent.
So there are three primary biological mechanisms doing all of this tuning behind the scenes. First up is DNA methylation. This is where a tiny methyl group is added directly to the DNA, usually suppressing that gene's expression just to protect the genome. Second is histone modification, which physically alters how tightly your DNA is packaged. And third, non-coding RNA plays a really vital role by intercepting and controlling gene activity through messenger RNA stability.
And this brilliantly illustrates how histone modification is a highly physical form of control. Your DNA is incredibly long, right? Like it has to be tightly wrapped around proteins called histones just to fit inside a microscopic cell, creating what we call chromatin. When this chromatin is loosely packed, genes are exposed and actively expressed. But when the epigenetic marks cause it to pack tightly together, the cellular machinery simply can't get in, totally shutting down gene expression.
Which brings us to Section 3, how your lifestyle matters.
Now this is where the science gets deeply personal. Those biological dimmer switches we just talked about, they aren't set in stone. Actually, they're highly responsive to your daily life. Your diet, your physical activity, the stress you manage, natural aging, and exposures to toxins, smoking, or pollution, these are direct environmental inputs. Your environment and daily habits are literally, physically interacting with your epigenetic markers, shaping your gene expression in real time. It's a real game changer.
And this dynamic interaction begins on day 1. During embryonic development, epigenetic regulation is kind of like the invisible architect. It takes highly versatile stem cells and forcefully guides them down specific paths, dictating whether they'll specialize into the muscle, nerve, or skin cells that eventually make up our entire bodies.
Let's move to Section 4, disease and inheritance.
Now, we have to talk about what happens when epigenetic instructions go wrong, because the consequences are severe. In cancer cells, for instance, we frequently observe abnormal DNA methylation and histone modifications that inappropriately activate cell division. Furthermore, these epigenetic alterations are strongly linked to neurological disorders like Alzheimer's and autism, as well as complex metabolic conditions including type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease.
We already know our environment impacts our own genes, but research is pointing toward a staggering possibility: epigenetic inheritance. Some of these modifications may actually be passed down from parents to their offspring. Let that sink in for a second. This implies that a parent's chronic stress, nutrition, or exposure to toxins could influence the genetic expression of future generations, radically shifting how we view health across an entire family tree.
All right, finally, Section 5, the future of medicine.
The scientific community is absolutely actively putting this knowledge to work right now. Through epigenetic biomarkers, we can detect diseases far earlier than before. This allows for highly personalized medicine, guiding precise treatment decisions based on an individual's unique profile. We're also developing specific drugs aimed at correcting abnormal methylation, and even leveraging epigenetic reprogramming to unlock entirely new approaches to tissue regeneration.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how fast it's moving. Thanks to rapid advances in genomics, we are operating at an unprecedented scale. New technologies enable researchers to map these epigenetic modifications across the entire human genome. We are effectively mapping the master blueprint itself, paving the way for revolutionary diagnostic tools and highly targeted preventative healthcare.
We've moved from microscopic chemical tags all the way to global health and cutting-edge therapies. So I want to leave you with this one thought. If our daily environment and habits shape how our genes are expressed, and if those patterns can actually be passed down, what epigenetic legacy are we leaving for the next generation? We are clearly much more than just our DNA sequence. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking questions and keep learning.